alongside Robert Davi, who has agreed repeatedly with Trump's calls to crack down on terror. And that's a big part of what we're hearing here tonight. I mean, Rudy Giuliani really just lit up the room with his speech. The crowd went wild. They were chanting his name, and he talked about a lot of things, but primarily the need to be safe. And within that context, we need to take on ISIS, and we need to deal with the police shootings that continue to plague our country. These are things that voters you're talking to, they care about.
Absolutely. I mean, you go all over this great country of ours, and there's a fear. There's a fear because of the lack of respect that law enforcement has been shown over the years, and the dissipation of our respect for that, and also what's happening to our country around the world, how people are not... I've been in Estonia, Latvia, Sweden, Budapest, China. American exceptionalism, people want a strong America. They want a strong leader. I'm talking about this is why Brexit happened and stuff like that. And Giuliani's speech today, he's an Italian-American, so that speech is very, it's an operatic. It's operatic. I mean, so he knows
it really was operatic, I got to tell you. And I'm a former opera singer, so I can say that. It was like an aria up there on
I heard that. I heard that you're a great singer. Yeah, so
but he really, I mean, his cadence, his tone, and most of all, his passion.
Absolutely. Well, you know, when you sit back and you see what's happening to our nation and the leadership and the State Department that's happened, it's devastating. This is it. This is our moment to save America. This is the moment to save America.
Well, this is exactly what we heard from Rudy Giuliani earlier. I want to play some of that speech for our viewers now. Let's go to that.
In the last 7 months, there have been 5 major Islamic terrorist attacks on us and our allies. We must not be afraid to define our enemy. It is Islamic extremist terrorism. You must understand.
And then he said it again and again. You know, this has been one of the biggest issues with this administration, this unwillingness to just say what it is.
They have
say Islamic extremism.
They're incapable of it. When you have an administration whose worldview is the absolute opposite, they are incapable of facing it or saying it. The DNA doesn't let them do that. And that goes in the whole progressive movement, as you can see. And it's going to.
Now, isn't this challenging for Hillary Clinton in that she was Secretary of State in this administration?
She's part of that whole issue. This is it. She's not going to. She can fool the American people right now. She can probably go a little to the center, a little more to the center. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the same kind of policy.
Robert, she's talking about bringing in 65,000 Syrians into this country. You know, look, aside from the terror threat alone, and that's a very real threat, and that's a very real concern. And we know, I mean, members of this administration have said you can't possibly vet these people.
No.
ISIS has promised to seed that group with terrorists, but also just the cultural challenges. I mean, you see that unfolding all over Europe right now.
All over. And that's, you know, Trish, I've been trying to push an idea for a long time. Ever since al-Sisi, the president of Egypt, came out in the Coptic Christian church. Al-Sisi, who's a practically Muslim, goes to a Coptic Christian church 2 years ago and asks for an Islamic reformation. King Abdullah agreed. And both these guys have not been invited to the United States. Why isn't there, by our administration and by our leadership, a call for an Islamic symposium? What is Islam in the 21st century?
In other words, Islam needs to change from within, and it needs its leaders to basically say, enough.
Enough.
You're ruining the religion. You're ruining the world with this extremism. But again, you know, if somebody doesn't even want to admit who the enemy actually is, then I don't know how you get there.
Well, a change of administration. Vote for Donald Trump and Mike Pence, and that'll help do it, because that'll be on the way. I think the leadership there will start to change. It's not going to happen with Hillary Clinton.
By the way, Robert, you know what they're chanting behind us here? Lock her up. That's the chant that you're hearing from some of the Donald Trump supporters on the floor. And there's also a sense of tremendous frustration out there in America right now with Hillary Clinton, with the thinking being that somehow she manages to just skate by above the law.
You know, I remember that moment, Trish, about Benghazi, and she said during the investigation, what difference does it make? That moment was the same kind of moment when I saw those American Navy men on their knees. Remember in Iran?
I remember that.
With that moment, what difference does it make? This is the kind of leadership you want? It makes a hell of a lot of difference. Because the whole country was led to believe that Benghazi was in response to an unprofessional videotape. That alone, the thing she's done to America, albeit we need to change leadership. There has to be accountability. There has to be strong accountability for what she's done and what she did admit to.
Okay.
Our national security.
Stay with me, Rob.